Diane, and it is the end of October. Oh my goodness, it's October 27th. It has been a glorious month, a busy one, but glorious. We've had all kinds of weather, but for the most part, it has been beautiful, warm. Grass is still green. Most of the leaves are still turning a little late because we had so much warm weather. And I think next week, starting Tuesday, we're gonna get into the 48-degree Fahrenheit temperatures. So we're in those final days of October, and I'm just sucking up every second of it. And I hope you are too if you're living in the Northern Hemisphere and if you're in a safe place. I can't even talk about what's been going on in the world, but I will say that Kylie Flavel, who has a podcast called Renovating a Ruin, if you haven't watched her, it's lovely. She's in Tuscany, and she takes some time to talk about how she's feeling and how she feels about producing a podcast based on beauty with all that's going on. And I'm not going to even try to express how I'm feeling, but I think if you watch the beginning of her podcast, I think she says very eloquently how probably all of us podcasters are feeling right now. So I started this podcast with some footage of Rodman's Hollow. So that's an area that I haven't taken you before, and what I'm trying to do, especially these last few days, is make sure I walk as many of the trails as possible. There are so many on the island. I was saying to my husband that we could walk every day and see something different on this tiny little island because of the way the island is. It's long, it's kind of narrow in some parts, a little wider in others, but Rodman's Hollow, and I want to make sure I give you all the right information, is a 230-acre glacial outwash basin. It's at the southwest end of the island, so it has a magnificent view of the majestic wind power turbines that sit off to the southwest of the island. It is considered the birthplace of Block Island, and it is preserved, and I want to tell you all of the organizations that are helping to preserve this beautiful 230-acre area. It's the Block Island Conservancy, the Nature Conservancy, the Town of New Shoreham, which is the official name of Block Island, the Town of New Shoreham, and the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. It is absolutely glorious. Again, for such a small island, each one of these trails and each side, each end, the north, the south, the east, the west, has a completely different vibe. When you're on the southwest side, you're looking out towards New York, Long Island, Montauk, and then just straight out to the ocean. And we have rugged cliffs, and you'll see from some of these photos quite a bit of erosion. But the hike into Rodman's Hollow, you're starting off with beautiful stone walls. You see a lot of beautiful bayberry and arrowroot and shad bushes and lots of fields that gently roll down to the tops of these cliffs. So we have the northern harrier hawk that feeds in this area, and I think he's on the Rhode Island endangered list. We have the Japanese burrowing beetle that is definitely on the endangered list. So it's just visually, so when I take you into the Enchanted Forest, you feel those trees around you, and it's dark and it feels magical, right? When you're out on Rodman's Hollow, it's very open. It's you see the grass moving in the wind, and then you come off the trail and there you are. You're at the edge of a cliff and you're looking out at the Atlantic Ocean. So it's absolutely glorious, and I hoped you enjoyed that walk through there. I also wanted to tell you about a interesting, I'll call it I don't know what to call it, but there's a gentleman by the name of Eben Horton Glass, and he has a studio off island in a little town, historic town of Wakefield, Rhode Island. And the studio was originally in the 1920s, it was a gas station, and he has converted it into his studio, and he calls it the Glass Station. And he has quite a background went to school in the fine arts, and just decided he wanted to hand blow glass. So he has been hand blowing 550 glass orbs. And I'm going to insert some photos so you can see what I'm talking about. And he hides them on the beaches on Block Island. He hides them on the greenway trails. and they're all numbered, and most of them are clear, but some of them, for instance, for Thanksgiving, he hid several that are orange and they're shaped like pumpkins. Sometimes they're all different colors. You just never know. And they're all numbered, so if you find one, you've been asked to go onto his website and register that you found one, so he knows how many are still out there. He also asks that you say, where did you find it? What location did you find it? So each year he can restock that location and know if there's still any out that are unfound. So that is really kind of a special time. And right now, everyone who comes out here is looking for the pumpkin orb. So, okay, let's get to the knitting. So what am I wearing? Well, I talked about this a little bit last, I talked about the concept of this in my last episode because we had come back from the Cape. I had bought this beautiful 100% alpaca yarn that I got at the farmer's market. And the yarn came from this gentleman who has and I haven't been to his farm, but it's called, oh, what did I do with my, all right, give me a second. I've got it right here. It's called the Biltmore Wool Barn, and it is on the Cape. And so this is 100% alpaca. And the pattern I decided to make is the cover. So it's this vest. And I'll stand up in a second. It's by Hargastrik. It's worked sideways in stocking knit. It's worked left to right separately, and it's knit front to back. So I know that's a lot to take in. So you start with one side and you're going to work front to back. And I think I said to you last episode when I had first started that I was working the sleeve first and working this way. But you're actually working this way. And so you're working this whole piece, and then you're going to work this piece, and you have a provisional cast on, and you're eventually going to, with a 3-needle bind off, have a very pretty little seam, so you don't have to hand sew it. You're doing the 3-needle bind off. This beautiful V-neck. I'm going to stand because I've paired it with this pretty belt, but you could see you could wear it kind of loosely. You can see that seam, you can see it on the side. You're going to pick up all these stitches, and then you're going to work your rib. And then this is happening as you're knitting each side. You're working the rib as well. I showed you that provisional cast on, so that included all of this, and you're working, did I say that right? No, the provisional cast on is here, and you're working across to here, and you're eventually going to cast off these stitches, and then you're going to work this sleeve and the round. So it's a lot to take in. It's a very interesting construction. It's fun. I think it's easy. This yarn was perfect for this. It is a very long staple yarn. I could see these long strands. It's undyed. It's hand spun. I don't wear a lot of brown, but I think with a crisp white blouse and with this belt and jeans, and I've got these little suede booties that I picked up this fall. So I'm very happy with this outfit, and it's a good time of year to wear it. I can get a blazer over this. I can get a poncho over this. It's very comfortable. I wasn't sure if I was going to like how big the sleeves were, but I think that's all part of it because this is the shoulder. So if I had made them any smaller, I think it would have been a little tight. So you'll have to take a look at the pattern, look at the sizing and the yarn you're using. The original pattern called for a 3.5 millimeter and a 4 millimeter. So the main body is worked in the 4 millimeter, which is a US 6, and the rib on the bottom is worked in the 3.5 millimeter, which is the 4. What else can I tell you about this? It was fun, it was fast. I think I wouldn't mind making one of these again in black. I mean, that's a staple in my wardrobe, having a black over white, and I like that underneath a blazer or under a cardigan even. I do believe that when you see the pattern, I'm going to show you a picture of it, it's much looser. I wanted mine to be a little bit closer fitting, and I definitely made that happen with the rib, and that's why I chose a smaller size. I did not want that loose fit, not on me. I wanted to be able to get it inside my clothes, and I wanted to be able to belt it. So, all right, so what have I been working on? Well, I don't usually put an unfinished project on the mannequin, but I had posted my progress on Facebook and on Instagram, and I got such a great response that I thought it deserved to be on the mannequin while it's under construction. I'm also showing you some photos. This is the Phosphien, and I'm calling it the Fossy in my Ravelry page. It's under Phosphien, but then I've got Fossy underneath it, and I've just started to load up information about it on Ravelry, and I just cleaned up my Ravelry account a little bit. I know I showed a lot of whips, but they were already finished, so hopefully it's a little easier to navigate. This is a beautiful, beautiful design. I wish I could meet Inga. So the designer is Inga Simonsen. She's a Norwegian. This is a Norwegian design. The pattern called for Norwegian yarn, and I can't think off of the top of my head, but I had trouble finding it. I think I mentioned that last episode. So what I decided to use was my tried and true Cascade 220. I had never tried their sport weight. This is a non-superwash Cascade 220 sport weight. This is the color of the main body. It's interesting because sometimes when I photograph it, it looks more whitish. Sometimes when I photograph it, it looks a little grayer. I think the camera is doing a good job of picking up the color right now. And then I'm pairing it with that pine green, that beautiful pine green. And do I have that with me? Let's see, I've hid my little balls behind here. No, but I have the lighter, kind of a soft greenish blue, and that is showing up in here. And now I kind of have a decision to make, because in the photo, it's showing the color work for the sleeve and the rib lining up at the same place. And I did some measuring to see, because I've got a little bit left of the color work, and then I'm going to have a rib. And I don't know, I like the long sleeve, I like the color work there. So before I go any further, I've got to try it on again and decide. Maybe once I put it on, that's going to come up a little higher. I usually like my color work on my sleeve and my body to line up. So we'll see. Okay, I'm loving so many things about this pattern, which is why I chose one. It's top down, it's in the round, nice sweet neckline, not too high, beautiful color work. If you have been following me and you saw many episodes ago, I featured a boho stickning design, and it's unusual to see pearl stitches in Fair Isle knitting or in Fair Isle style knitting, and that was very reminiscent of the boho stickning designs. You saw a lot of those little pearl stitches. Well, this pattern, not only does it have color work and this cable, it also has a lot of pearl stitches worked into the color work, and then you're seeing those pearl stitches and of course this beautiful cable. And on the sleeve, we're seeing pearl stitches and then the color work. It's giving me everything I want from knitting. I want to sit down and I want to have simplicity, stocking knit. I want color work, simple, only 2 colors at a time. So again, very much like Fair Isle, you've only got 2 strands going. I will take that back. I think there's 1 or 2 places. No, it's always 2 colors at a time, so you're only managing 2 colors. And I will keep my dominant color. In this case, it's this pine. I'm keeping that in my left hand, and I'm working those stitches continental, and I'm keeping everything else in my right hand and working that English style. And I made that decision for a couple of reasons. I really wanted the dominant color to be that pine, and there were so many pearl stitches, and I am not consistent continental with my pearl stitches, so I really wanted to get a good gauge. I did my gauge. The gauge asked you to do it over stocking knit and then over the patterning, over the texture, and I did that with my right hand, and I liked the gauge that I got, and I stayed right on target. So the needle size is 4mm or US 6 on the main body, and then the ribbing is on a US 3, which is a 3mm. And I was able to get gauge with the Cascade 220 Sport using the recommended needles. And again, the only thing I'm not sure about, and I added an extra cable patterning. So this design is charted. So if you don't like charts, that is unfortunate because it's not a hard chart to follow. I really like the way she did it. So you have one chart for this piece, which includes this cable. The key is very, very clear. The increases are happening. So there are some German short rows in the back, and you'll see them here. And I noticed in Ravelry, not everybody was happy with this big chunk of stocking knit. So you don't really see that in the front, because in the front you're going right from the end of the color work into the texture. But because of the German short rows and because of where they're happening, which is in here, you've got quite a bit of stocking knit before you get to the cable. If I make this again, and I may make this in red and black and tweed, maybe the body in a tweed, like a charcoal. I don't know, but I think I might make this again. If I do it again, I may go back and read some of the notes in Ravelry. Some people put that, I think they worked the textured right up and they started the cables sooner and still had no problem working the German short row. But I really wanted to give the designer's vision a chance, so I made it as it is. And I don't think that's gonna bother me too much, but you can see that's a little different than what you see in the front. The cables start right away, and so does the texture. So I have the rest of this color work to go, and then I have the rib. And so, you know, that's why I'm trying to decide what I'm gonna do here, because I think the color work here is a little bit more than here. So it may all work out okay, we'll see. I'll let you know next. Hopefully I have this on, or I have it finished in my next episode. All right, so what else have I got going on? Well, I'm still working on my sister-in-law's Fisherman knit, and I want to talk about that pattern because a lot of you have asked me about that pattern. Where can I find that pattern? That is an old pattern. That pattern is probably more than 30 years old. It could be closer to 40 years old. I'm not sure where I got it, if I got it from my mother. I know a neighbor on Block Island at one time let me borrow her pattern because one of my pages was I had made it so often that I couldn't even read, because I had made little notes, I couldn't even read it anymore. So I made copies of hers. And so I'm working off this part old, part copied pattern that I'm afraid to even touch it. I just sort of lay it out, and I am making that Fisherman knit in a dark green. And so, as I mentioned last time, we just had our hardwood floors done. Everything is back. We're back into our regular routine. All the furniture is back in place. But for a couple of weeks there, we were either away or we're living down in our den, and the light down there is much darker. I don't have all that natural light that I have up here and then on the main floor. That den is down on the bottom floor, and it's much darker. So I just couldn't even think about working on that, and I'm getting ready to work on that again. And I really want to have that ready at least by Christmas. I'd hope she'd even have it before Thanksgiving. So I'm going to finish this, and now that I'm back in my studio, I'm going to start working on that, and I'll show that to you next time. But so I did a lot of research. I keep looking for this Candied Aaron cardigan, and I can find photos of it. I can find people who have made it on Ravelry, but I can't find the pattern. So I am going to put out a I really don't know what I'm going to do now. I don't know if I can give you the pattern, and I'm even worried about giving it to you if I could, because it's so frail. I don't even know if I can copy it properly. So I'm going to maybe ask on Ravelry if anybody has it. I don't know what the copyright situation is going to be. It's nowhere. I went into Candide, so let me keep researching it. If any of you can find it or have it, and have any information about what we can do about that, I would love that, because several people want to make it. It's a beautiful pattern. There's no doubt about it. And I've made some other Fisherman knits and I like them, but that one, there's something about that wave of honey. There's something about that design that I think is really special. So let me see what I can do. The other thing I did is I ordered some, this is very interesting. This is from Lion brand yarns. This is 100% recycled polyester. Now, I don't like to work in polyester. However, I'm just going to make a big, chunky throw for my couch, and I want to be able to throw it in the washing machine, and I don't want to worry about it if it gets, something on it. So I bought this, and it is, let's see, what can I tell you? It is 223 yards. It is, it does, this is interesting because I bought it so it could go in the washing machine, but it says hand wash, lay flat to dry. So that's kind of funny. It's a super bulky. The recommended needle size is a US 13 or 9 millimeter. If you're going to crochet, it's an N13 or 9 millimeter. It contains 100% post-consumed recycled polyester. I thought I could just throw it in the washing machine. I probably could on my delicate cycle. So anyway, I'm going to make a little throw. Also, I was watching Ivana from the Republic of Me, and her last episode, she did a whole episode on her sock yarns and the way she makes her socks, and she makes the tube, and then she does the afterthought heel where she cuts in. And she did a great, it was a great podcast. She went through all her fingering weight stash and some of her favorites and some that she knows have worn well, some that she's just kind of trying out. And she mentioned the West Yorkshire Spinners 4-ply sock yarn, and I had not tried that yet. This is reared, sheared, I'm not sure of my Rhode Island accent, reared, sheared, and spun in Britain. It's 75% wool, 25% nylon. There are 400 meters, 437 yards, 100-gram ball. So I'm gonna give that a try, and you know who these socks are for, right? This is my color. So I'm gonna put these on the needles for myself. I have several projects from last winter that I, hadn't finished. That Martin Story cardigan that has the red mohair and the gray Rowan mohair wool blend. I'm going to be pulling that out and seeing where I'm at. I have that colored coat that I still have to work the button band. So I've got a few things that I have to dig out. The other thing I'm going to be doing this week is I'm going to open up my cedar chest and start taking out some of my fall weight woolens and freshen them up. Sometimes I will put them in the dryer on the freshen cycle. So I think I'll get some of those out and ready to wear. It's definitely, starting Tuesday, it's gonna be 48 degrees. We're gonna be getting into our woolens. So those are the things I have going on right now. I am gonna include a before and after picture of the desk in the office to show you what I've been up to. And also I'd like to leave you with some footage of some of the Halloween decorations and our hike through Martin Lots, where we stumbled across a beautiful creative Halloween decorations. So if you're interested in that, stay for the last bit of this video. And I hope you're, again, if you're safe and you're in a good place, I hope you're enjoying October, and I will see you again soon. Goodbye. Thank you.